Howdy, YouTube, and happy July 5th. It is not July 4th anymore. But you know what? The day after Independence is our first day of Independence. We're watching Dreamcast Guy. Sony is lying about PlayStation games. Physical still wins. Real sales leaked. Well, yeah, of course. They wouldn't have been selling physical copies of games this long if people weren't buying the physical copies of games. Like the games I love the most, I buy physical copies of. Like I have physical copies of all the Final Fantasy games that they've been releasing. You know, like well, just the two like remake and rebirth. But I pre-ordered the physical copy to make sure I got one, and it's because I love Final Fantasy and I want it for my Final Fantasy shelf, which isn't terribly big, but that's because my shelf is kind of small, and it's kind of got my entire Borderlands collection and Final Fantasy stuff on the same shelf, on the same big shelf. The it's like 5 shelves. Yeah, 5 shelves. And I had to cram all of it on there. I need to get bigger shelves one day, and maybe I'll get more Final Fantasy stuff. But like, it's harder to find the stuff for the older Final Fantasies that I really like. So, yeah, I'll get there.
Hey there, gamers, Dreamcast Guy here. Today we're talking about PlayStation. It has now been 3 days since they announced the end of physical media. There will not be any
which was a huge mistake, and everybody hated it.
PlayStation discs in the future, and the PlayStation 6 obviously going to be all digital. But ever since that
if they manage to get the PlayStation 6 out at all
announcement, there's been a tremendous amount of backlash. People very pissed. People saying they're going to sell their system or go purely to PC. Or a lot of people even surprisingly saying they'd rather play on a Nintendo Switch because at least those cartridges have the data on it. Well, something very interesting happened last night, which is that people started to fact-check PlayStation. Because Sony claims they're stopping selling games because people don't buy discs. There's no reason having these factories.
And this isn't true because I watched Mr. Matty's video yesterday, if you watch Mr. Matty Plays, and he looked up on the site the add-on for the the PlayStation 5 that is all digital with no physical disc. There's a contraption that you can attach to it that lets you play discs on the PS5 digital version. Why you need to get either one of those when you can just buy the disc version, I don't understand. But like on the site it says due to high demand you can only buy one per order. Wonder why that is if they're not selling physical copies.
Employees and very expensive machinery to upkeep if people aren't buying discs. If everybody's buying big games digitally, why are they putting stuff out physically? Well, it turns out that's a lie. It turns out people are actually checking the sales data reported by
To gauge real physical demand, you need to look at splits of games that release both physical and digital only. Thanks to the Insomniac leaks, we have such data on PS first-party games, PlayStation physical / digital splits. Sackboy was 77% digital. What the heck? Okay, these are much higher than I thought they would be, honestly. 77%, 76%. Okay, that's like all in the 60%. Oh, except for MLB The Show, which was, I get that. MLB The Show, I feel like those people wouldn't need the physical disc. Those feel like people who, like light gamers, like they basically only play MLB. Kind of like the people who only play Madden games, stuff like that. I feel like, yeah, it would make sense for them to be mainly digital. Because they just want to like turn the game on real quick. They don't want to have to deal with discs.
PlayStation themselves, and also the famous Insomniac leak. It turns out, even by their own internal metrics, we now know that Sony is lying for sure. PlayStation is straight up looking you dead in the eye and saying you don't want the things you claim to want. Now, I want to break these lies down because I do think it kind of shows the fact that PlayStation is doing this just to try and increase profits. They want to make it where games never go on sale, they never get marked down, they stay $100 forever. If you don't like it, you just don't buy it. They're trying to be...
And we won't, and then they'll drop the price.
Trying to really scale down. Instead of having a wide viewer base, a wide player base, millions and millions of people, it seems like they're trying to get like a group of select richies to pay their bills, which obviously isn't going to work. But
you can't cater to whales. The problem with that is if you cater to whales, the whales need like smaller fish to feed on. Otherwise, the whales won't stick around. I'm so sorry about this pause, by the way.
Take a look at the leaks and some rather psycho reactions to the fact that Sony is lying. Let's get into it.
Well, yeah, they're a corporation.
Give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, it is interesting that ever since this tweet got posted talking about the end of physical discs and the end of the PlayStation 3 store, not only is this now the biggest PlayStation tweet of all time with literally 115 million views, It's also the fact that
What is this,
look at the
not
trending
buying
replies. Everybody is saying this is garbage, this is BS. Why are you even selling the disc drive
There it
if
is.
it doesn't do anything? And tons of discussion about essentially boycotting PlayStation. That maybe you'll keep your current PS5, but it's time to segue away. Maybe keep your PlayStation 5 so you can play the
PC. Just get PC.
games you already own, but
Problem solved.
like, why keep investing in a platform that doesn't really seem to even care about sticking around, right? But ever since this happened, a lot of people have been chiming in about what this means specifically. There was this weird statement that essentially now Sony is claiming that while the discs themselves will stop production, certain people will be able to reproduce them. That basically, like, if they're printing a bunch of Insomniac discs, Insomniac themselves is allowed to print more of them. So basically, they're saying that there will still be some discs, just 2028 going forward, there will be no discs.
Okay, I do like that they're giving the publishers the option to do it themselves, so people who actually care about games will do it. I'm glad for that. However, January 2028, that means we have about a year and a half to bully them into changing their minds.
Whatsoever. It's basically this tiny final limited run, which to me definitely signals the fact that A, the PlayStation 6 is coming out in 2028 or probably, holiday 2027.
Yeah,
and additionally,
definitely.
this is a sign about the fact
They're
that
gonna do
Sony
it
is
coincide
literally
each other so they don't have to come
disassembling
up with a physical
even the
version.
process of making it. In fact,
Although, how's that going to work if they make only a digital version, but like they let their publishers do physical copies? What are they going to play it on?
there is leaks right now that apparently the PlayStation disc plant is already reassigning staff to make other products. There's talk about that essentially they're going to start making, legitimately, not joking, they're trying to make AI lenses, little tech that's basically
They have
sold
a
to
site
AI
in
companies.
Austria?
It sounds like essentially
Why would you do
instead
anything
of
in Austria?
making discs, they're going to try and just sell the parts of the factory itself to get some AI money.
Probably
But
'cause their
here was an
economy is
interesting
garbage.
take I saw people bringing up a lot. This is actually one of the previous CEOs of PlayStation, Sean Layden. Sean Layden, very beloved guy. He made a couple of missteps with stuff like investing so hard into the mobile market, trying to do a big launch of the PlayStation Vita. But you can't really say that he screwed anything up. You could say that he made big gambles that didn't pay off. But in the business world, that's the unforgivable sin, is wasting money, right? But Sean Layden's been very interesting because ever since his retirement, especially because of how young he still is, he's been doing the podcast circuit.
How old is he? He doesn't look young, but he could just be one of those people who look weirdly older than their actual age.
He does like to talk about PlayStation, about how everything's going down, about his time there and their current existence. And he dropped this really interesting quote that is making people sort of miss those Sean Layden years, right? Talking about the end of production of PlayStation discs. Unlike Xbox, PlayStation has a wider global fan base, and not just in numbers, but in the reach, because Sony Corp has reach all over the world. Like, keep in mind,
Okay,
Xbox is
yeah.
straight up dead in huge chunks of the world.
Good and true.
The idea that you could still buy a PlayStation 4 game, throw it in a machine, and play was important. You don't want to leave
That actually is very important. That's why I was buying so many physical games, because it's important to me that I can just play it. Like, I don't need the internet to be on. I can just play the daggum game.
those people behind. I don't know what went on in those conversations, but it's a fairly dramatic decision. Now, he went on to basically say that this is a spreadsheet decision. He essentially said
What?
that inside of Sony and inside of any company, you kind of math it out. And at a certain point, you say, is this worth the backlash? Will we make more money by just
I tell you right now, it has not been, not for them.
screwing over people? Will we get 3%, 5%, 50% more profitability if we stop having sales, if we stop competing against physical, if we stop mailing discs? And he's essentially saying the spreadsheet finally just said, it's time to end discs. And a lot of people just don't like that because it's not just that we don't believe
I
this
feel like they
number, right? This
manipulated
number
the
they keep
spreadsheet
kicking
in
around.
saying that.
85% of all games on PlayStation are digital. Now, this is an interesting number because people would think of it as, okay, there's 100 copies of Spider-Man sold, 85 of them are digital, when that's not really it. Instead, the way they actually do this math is digital units sold divided by total units sold times 100. So what he's saying here essentially is that, so it's Sony sold 74.6 million units of a game, digital and physical, but that means 85% are digital, right? No, what it actually comes out to is that essentially they're counting the digital sales against the total physical sales, meaning that if everyone who stopped buying physical games the past 5 years went out and bought a game a month, it still would mean that technically digital dominates over physical. Because think of all the indie games.
What?
Think of all
Because mostly everything that's physical is also digital, but as a digital is also what?
the digital only games. Think of all the random tiny $2 indie games you bought just as a joke, or all the digital games you downloaded stuff for free. Like, say you wanted to try Apex Legends or Fortnite. Each of those are digital sales. Stuff that does skew the number in this very, very bad math. Now, real quick, I do want to say, Canadian Guy A, this dude's been tweeting a lot of very interesting deep dive
Yeah,
numbers.
I don't know what he was typing. That didn't make any sense to me.
Great stuff. Simultaneously, this guy writes a little bit like the Unabomber, but we're going to go past
Oh my god, what a reference! Jesus.
the fact this looks a little bit like a manifesto. And I want to take a look at this quote here by Nip. seen several quotes about PlayStation's 78% digital sales, thus omitting the important context, which is the fact that these splits from PlayStation's leaks, this is not like public data. There is some public data as well that basically sounds.
Okay, are they saying that the digital sales are 84% because people aren't buying physical, when reality 84% of the sales were digital because a lot of the games they put out were digital and not physical, like just slop games? Because that would make more sense.
Like everything, like even PlayStation, by their own admission, brags about how well games are selling physically, but also according to the Insomniac leak. Now, when this got hacked, this is their data. This is literally Insomniac talking to PlayStation and PlayStation talking to Insomniac. This is not some like loosey-goosey conceptual chat GPT stuff. This is legitimately the company talking to itself. And they said the physical digital splits. Look at this right here. Sackboy, 77% physical.
Good. I'm liking seeing all these physical numbers.
Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, 76. Ghost of Tsushima, 71. Look at these, 70, 66, 66, 61, 51. These are dramatically high numbers that show a majority, like a classic majority of these people, not only like playing it physical, are buying it physical, are supporting it physical, probably even pre-ordering it physically. So it's saying the fact that this is not a 78% split. It's like, okay, some of this stuff like Uncharted 4 is an 83% physical split.
Holy crap. Okay, I would not have guessed that for Uncharted 4. Not 83% physical. That's crazy.
A lot of these are basically showing the fact that people are excited about that. Now, you could say, okay, that data is from 2022, but it is interesting to me that it really does show the fact that in a lot of ways, physical matters. Physical matters beyond just the idea of, hey, it's cool to have a game on my shelf. It shows the fact that there is an importance to the PlayStation brand because it's been built on now a decade of backwards compatibility, right? Sean Layden is exactly right. Sean Layden, when he's talking about this, is straight up saying that, hey, one of the things we did is, yes, the PlayStation 4 could not play PlayStation 3 games, but a lot of the best PlayStation 3 games came over to the PlayStation 4, right? All right, this is...
Yeah, I didn't really understand that. Why couldn't you put a PS3 disc in there? I mean, they know how to do backwards compatibility. It doesn't even make sense.
Beginning of the generation. We're going to give you the craziest indies. We're going to launch the beginning of PlayStation Plus Gold. We're going to do all these different things that are exactly what you wanted. Remakes, remasters, sequels, compilations, collections like the God of War collection and the Uncharted collection. Back-to-back big projects. And they're going to work forever. That was a promise, right? Hey, here's all the best games. They're instantly available.
Yeah, I don't trust anything to work forever when it's coming to these corporations. It is not in their best interest to make something work forever. Then they can't sell it to you again.
Available right now. Buy them at full price. Put them on your shelf. You can play them forever. The PlayStation 5 plays every single PlayStation 4 game. Oh, you want to get a digital version of a PlayStation 1 game? Yeah, those still exist. Stuff you bought on the PlayStation 3 20 years ago, a lot of those games, if they're still in the storefront, are playable, accessible inside right now of the PlayStation Store. But just doing this hard pivot to digital only, taking away the disc drive, not even giving an option of discs, a lot of people are feeling a sense of betrayal because it's obvious PlayStation is lying to us. They're just straight up lying. They're trying to skew the numbers to just get a tiny bit of extra profitability.
Yeah,
and they're trying to clean.
That's what they're doing. They're trying to just take absolute control over the games by making them digital, and it's not going to work.
Oh, we're just following the trends. I saw a really good tweet today.
That's not a
I was
trend.
doing my cardio, and I saw somebody say that if they're really following the trends, technically right now, the most popular market in the world, even though a lot of us don't like to think about it, is crappy cell phone games, is Candy Crush, or people doing like Seek and Finds, or I don't know.
That's very true. Mobile has been popping off for like a decade, if not more.
Sneak and fucking, whatever, right? There's a lot of games out there that people only play on
What did
the
he
phones,
say?
right? That is the most popular platform. But you don't see PlayStation going out there making cell phone games. You don't see Nintendo rushing out to put Breath of the Wild on an Android 7, right?
That's because they don't want to put their Nintendo games on anything except for Nintendo console so that they can control what happens with them. Again, control is the big issue.
They know the importance of exclusives. They know the importance of platforms. They know the importance of the walled garden. They're doing this purely not to follow trends or help out players. They're doing it because a spreadsheet said they could get away with it. Even if they got to fudge the numbers, they're willing
they're not
to lie
getting away with it,
to make
though.
sure that spreadsheet looks great for the next quarter. Already their investment has gone up. Straight up, their stock price increased the second they said they'd stop printing discs. So I guess the lesson is that Sony, they're lying. Xbox is lying. Everybody that's trying to be publicly traded is lying to you all the times. If the games are...
Well, yeah, it's a corporation. And a Japanese corporation at that. They have no problem lying and disrespecting you.
good, great. But at this point, PlayStation's not trying to make games. They're not even trying to make PlayStation.
Their whole culture is you need to sacrifice for us.
They're trying to make a profit, and they're trying to do it at your expense. But these have been some off-the-cuff thoughts. How do you feel about the future of PlayStation? How do you feel about the future of Xbox for the next, 10 days they exist? And how do you feel about the Nintendo Switch 2? Tell me your thoughts in the comments.
I hate it. It's barely an upgrade, if at all. And, well, it is. It objectively is. There is no getting around it. There's a slight upgrade to the Switch. but it's only so they can milk you for more and more money, and they're going to game key cards so they can control the games. Plain and simple. It's depressing. Well, thanks for watching, guys. Leave a comment down below whether you got a Switch 2 or whether you're planning to get a PlayStation 6 if it's only digital. I would love to hear how people are okay with everything being digital and not having any more physical copies of anything. All right, I'll catch you later. Stay safe, stay hydrated, take care of yourselves, and remember, don't give them control because they'll never stop trying to take more. Love and nachos, baby bears.